Hello, welcome to a new episode of Gen Z Perspective. I am your host, and today we're going to go over a variety of topics on hand, to give an update on the channel and all that. But before we get started, if you haven't already, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It'll help me out with the algorithm of YouTube to help get this channel boosted and help it, grow out to more audiences. But anyways, with that said, let's get on to the video. But before we get started, I want to give a little bit of a touch up on where I've been the past few days and stuff like that. I've got distracted with life and doing some stuff outside of YouTube. Like for instance, with the government shutdown, we ended up getting back paid, and I had to take care of some stuff outside of YouTube and make sure everybody's fair and square, and all that. And also, I've kind of lost a little bit of interest due to catching up on life stuff. So I'm trying to get back in the swing of things with this. But that's the good news is that everything on my finances is back to normal. I would say, um, and I want to apologize in advance if my voice is um, a little bit shaky. It's because I've been dealing with a cold past couple of days, so um, that could be why the audio quality is not that great. And I also want to thank everybody or not thank everybody. I want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving. There we go. Um, I know it's a couple days late from Thanksgiving, but I still want to wish everybody Thanksgiving and hope everybody has a Merry Christmas. But with all that being said, let's get into it. Um, I want to mostly focus on the redistricting battle because there's a big vote coming up next week in the Indiana Senate, Indiana Congress, whatever you want to call it. But just in case everybody's living under a rock or today's their first day they found a TV or a screen. Um, the redistricting war, districting battle, whatever you want to call it, was basically started by Texas. Texas decided to redraw their maps because I guess it was legal within the Texas Constitution, but they redrew their maps and they were able to successfully pass a new map to basically get rid of, or basically the trends are very favorable to Republicans in 5 districts. However, ever since then, the courts have first the lower court ruled that the map was illegal and they had to go back to the old map, citing lack of Hispanic representation. That was the court's decision. However, the Supreme Court, one of the justices, I want to say it was Alito, said that the new Texas map can stand, for now. Now that could be a battle, next year that Texas could be fighting. Um, in response to that, California wanted to do the same thing. However, in California, they had an independent commission that wouldn't allow them to do it. So they introduced Prop 50, which, in a nutshell, says that if it passes, it will get rid of the independent commission and it will be up to the state legislator, which is supermajority Democrat, to redraw the maps. Well, Prop 50 passed. So now when they get back into session in January, they're going to draw up new maps and pass it that way to counteract Texas. So, and the likelihood of that, they're going to try to draw out 5 Republican seats for Democrat seats. So, like I said, they're going to try to counterbalance with Texas, which leads to other states having to pick up the tab essentially to give Republicans more of an advantage when it comes to the midterms. Now, some states like Missouri and North Carolina, they have already redrew their maps to add a seat to be more favorable for Republicans. So there's 2 right there. Now there's other states that's talking about doing the same thing, such as Florida. Most likely, Florida is going to redraw their map. They just got to go through a lot of legal battles and challenges through the courts and stuff like that, and this legislator. But most likely, Florida's going to redraw their maps. Kansas was talking about redrawing their maps to add a seat for to be more Republican leaning, along with Nebraska. But so far, that hasn't gained a lot of traction, especially Nebraska. Kansas, it might happen. I don't know. We'll have to see. But the focus point is Indiana. Indiana was talking about doing it um, this year, but however, when they went into session, they decided no, we're not going to redistrict mid decade, and a lot of it is just a lot of bitterness towards Trump and the Republican Party because a lot of the state legislator within Indiana is tied to Mike Pence and a lot of neocon establishment folks in Indiana that are bitter towards Trump and they hate Trump. Because Trump basically stole the old guard Republican Party away from them, and that we're talking about 2025 here. I'm sorry, but we can't be playing these. We need to consider about the Democrat Party and all that. Um, they or else they're gonna not consider us when they get in power. Um, and that's I mean that's true. When the Democrats are in power, they gerrymander the hell out of states like Illinois. Illinois gerrymandered the hell out to where they maxed out all the Democrat seats they can get in Illinois. Pretty much, they might be able to get one or two more, but that's it. Um, but with with the Republican Party, the problem is the Republican Party has been so used to being the loser or the minority side of things, to where they don't know how it is to win. And until they get this loser mentality out of their heads, they're gonna keep losing these key races. For instance, like in Virginia, that ties into Democrat Party. The Democrat Party doesn't care what they have to do as long as they win. They don't care who they hurt. I mean, for instance, with the government shutdown, they were letting millions of people starve on SNAP benefits so that they potentially could have got what wanted. Now at the end of the day, they didn't, but they're willing to do that so that they get what they want. They're willing to throw people in jail over differing opinions. They're willing to you know unalive people that they don't agree with. Not all Democrats, of course, but if you look at patterns and statistics, you'll see the pattern with it. And as far as Indiana, they can do is at least the Republican Party would at least be somewhat satisfied if you can get at least one district. I mean, you can. They would want both because right now Indiana is a 9-2 state, 9 Republican seats, 2 Democrat seats. They would love to be able for the Senate or for the legislature to draw out both those Democrat seats. But if they can get one, that'd be fantastic. Um, Otherwise, you're going to have states like Virginia that's going to take the mantle and sway the redistricting battle in favor of Democrats because right now, Virginia, they want to redraw their maps to where it's a 11-2 or 12-1 map because the Democrats have the supermajority now, at least in the House, I want to say, for Virginia. And the issue with Virginia is that it's not going to happen anytime soon. But you got to consider that it's coming down the pipeline. Right now, the issue with Virginia is that they passed the people of Virginia passed a referendum calling for a nonpartisan redistricting commission in 2022. It basically made it where not Democrats or not Republicans have control of this commission. It's kind of like even split down the middle. For for the legislator to repeal that, they have to pass it not only in two independent congressional sessions, which they already did one of them back in November, early or October into November. Um, So they gotta get back into session in January to pass the same thing again. It, and they also have to put it on a ballot in next November to for the people of Virginia to say yes to it as well. It's a lot of like intricacies within the Virginia Constitution and within the law to repeal this nonpartisan commission. So it probably won't go into effect 2026, but 2028, yeah, if they go through all that, it would go into effect. Also, there's talks about possibly Maryland redistricting. Um, Maryland tried to redistrict, I want to say a couple years back, to get rid of the one or two Republican seats, but the courts ruled down on it. So, you know, and they still have I think, one Republican seat now with, what's his name, Andy Harris in Maryland. But, who's to say they won't try it again this time they get successful. There's also talks about New York trying it. But they run into the same problems Virginia is. They have an independent commission. There's also talks about Illinois doing it, but the problem with Illinois is if you ever look at the Illinois map, that map looks hideous. Meaning, it's all gerrymandered to hell to where Democrats have pretty much maximized all they can out of Illinois. They might, if they redraw the maps, they might get one more seat, but that's pushing their luck. And that's what I say is that the Republicans need to toughen up and stand up for themselves instead of caving in to the Democrat Party, because you have states like Massachusetts and New Hampshire, especially like Massachusetts. Massachusetts, yeah, it went for Kamala last year by like 15, 20 points, but you have 40% of the state that voted for Trump, but yet they have no Republican district at all in Massachusetts. Yeah, or like New Mexico, where yeah, it went for um, Kamala for six, but still you have no districts that represent a Republican or a Republican district that represents their Republican voters. So these Democrats, they don't care about about bipartisan politics. They just want to win at all costs. So until the Republicans toughen up and fight back, they're going to keep losing, and their voters are going to be like, "Well, if you don't got a backbone to to stand up to them, why should we vote for you? Um, we might as well just vote for the Democrat Party." You know, and that's all I got to say about that. The it is what it is. But anyways, that's all I have for today on latest on redistricting. If you like the content, like I said earlier in the video, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. It'll help me with the algorithm and help get this channel exposed to more people that may like this content. So, anyways, I hope you have a good rest of your day, and I will see you next time.